I only need two things from you, your truth and your trust. Will you offer them both, or will fear keep you silent? In the dance of life, I need only two steps: honesty and vulnerability. Can you match my rhythm? You don't have to give me everything, just give me the parts of you that truly matter. Are you ready? I need two things: your heart, unguarded, and your mind, open. Are you brave enough to let both be seen? If you want to build something real, I need only two things from you: sincerity and courage. Do you have the strength to offer them? Can you give me the two things that could change everything: your honesty and your willingness to grow? I don't ask for much, just the truth and your deepest feelings. Will you dare to open up? I don't need perfection. I need two things: your authenticity and your commitment. Are you ready to step up? The two things that could lead us to something extraordinary: trust and vulnerability. Are you brave enough to share them? What I need is simple but rare: your heart completely exposed and your mind ready to explore. Will you give them? To make this work, there's only two things that matter: your truth and your presence. Are you willing to offer both? I need you to be brave enough to share your truth and humble enough to accept mine. Are you ready? Two things hold the key to everything: your honesty and your openness. Will you unlock the door with me? The journey to connection requires two things: trust and openness. Can you bring them to the table? I need nothing more than your honesty and your trust. Will you give them, or will doubt stand in the way? What we build together requires two things: your authenticity and your willingness to be vulnerable. Do you have the courage to offer both? The only things I ask for are simple yet powerful: your heart and your honesty. Are you ready to give both freely? I don't need all your answers, just two things: your truth and your willingness to listen. For this to work, I need just two things from you: your full self and the courage to be real. Will you take that leap? It's not about perfection, but connection. I need only two things: your truth and your heart. Two things are required for us to truly connect: your vulnerability and your willingness to trust. Can you offer both? In every relationship, there are only two things that matter: your openness and your honesty. Will you share them with me? I don't need everything, just two things: your trust and your willingness to be raw and real. The foundation of anything beautiful starts with two things: truth and courage. Can you build with me? What I seek is simple: your truth and your openness. Will you offer them, or will fear hold you back? I need two things from you: your heart laid bare and your mind free of doubt. Will you take the chance? Two things can change everything: trust and vulnerability. Can you offer both with an open heart? I only need two things from you: your truth and the courage to be vulnerable. Are you ready? All I ask is simple: give me your heart and share with me your deepest thoughts. The real question is, can you offer the two things that will create lasting change? Trust and honesty. I need nothing from you but your heart and your truth. Will you share them? It only takes two things to make this work: your presence and your honesty. Are you brave enough to deliver? What I seek is not perfection, but your truth and your trust. Will you share them openly? I don't need your promises, just your truth and your heart. Will you dare to give them? The foundation of everything real is built on two things: authenticity and openness. Will you help me build? I only ask for two things: your honest feelings and the courage to show them. Can you do that? Two things will make all the difference: your truth and your willingness to trust. Will you deliver them? I need nothing but your raw honesty and your unguarded heart. Are you ready to give them? Two simple things: your heart open and your mind clear. Will you offer them freely? In this space, I need only two things from you: truth and connection. Will you take the leap? I don't need all the answers, just your raw truth and your willingness to share it. Two things will transform everything: trust and honesty. Can you offer both without hesitation? What matters most to me are two things: your heart laid bare and your words free of fear. Will you speak them? I need nothing more than your truth and your heart. Will you share both without reservation? If you dare to deliver, you'll give me two things: your honesty and your commitment to vulnerability. The two things that can make all the difference are your truth and your trust. Can you give them? I need two things from you: to be seen for who you really are and to be open to who I truly am. In this journey, I only need two things: your truth and your open heart. Will you give them? What I seek is simple: two things that matter above all else: honesty and vulnerability. Will you offer them? To move forward, we need only two things: mutual trust and shared vulnerability. Can we make that happen? The two things that hold all the power are your openness and your willingness to trust. Can you offer them freely? I only ask for two things: your truth and your willingness to let me see your heart. Will you share them? What I need is not difficult, just two things: honesty and courage. Are you ready to share both? The greatest gift you can give is your truth and your willingness to trust. Will you offer both? If you dare to step forward, all I need is your heart and your willingness to be real. Two things can create the foundation for everything: your truth and your open heart. Can we build something real? I need only two things from you: your trust and your ability to be vulnerable. Will you offer them? In the end, it's simple: truth and trust. Those are the only things that matter. Will you give them? I need two things: your heart free from fear and your words unguarded. Are you ready? The path forward only requires two things: your openness and your willingness to trust. Will you walk it with me? All I need are two things: your truth, unfiltered, and your trust, unwavering. Will you offer them? What could change if you gave me two things: your honesty and your vulnerability? Are you ready to try? Two things are all it takes to start something real: openness and commitment. Can you give both? The only two things that matter in any real connection are truth and trust. Will you give them freely? I ask for nothing but your heart and your truth. Can you share them with me without hesitation? I need just two things from you: the courage to be vulnerable and the strength to be honest. Two things could shift everything: your authenticity and your willingness to be present. Can you offer them? In the quiet moments, I need just two things: your heart open to love and your words spoken with truth. I don't need your perfection, just two things: your truth and your full, honest self. Will you share them? What would happen if you gave me only two things: your trust and your willingness to listen? I need only two things from you: your full attention and your honest heart. Will you deliver them? Two things hold the power to change everything: trust and vulnerability. Are you ready to offer both? I don't need much, just two things: your raw truth and your willingness to be open. Will you share them? It's simple. I need your truth and your courage to face what's real. Will you give both? I ask for nothing but two things: to see the real you and to know that you trust me with your heart. Two things are all I ask for: honesty without fear and trust without conditions. Can you offer them? If you want to build something real with me, I only need two things: your heart open and your words true. I only need two things from you: to be fully present and to be your authentic self. Are you willing? Two simple things: truth and vulnerability. Will you give them and transform everything between us? For us to grow, I need two things: your honesty and your willingness to take the leap with me. I seek nothing but two things from you: your full self and your trust in this moment. Two things stand between us and greatness: your openness to share and your trust in the process. What if the only thing I needed were two things: your truth and the courage to be vulnerable? Two things have the power to shift everything: honesty and trust. Will you give both? The key to connection is simple: two things, truth and vulnerability. Can you offer them freely? All I need are two things: your truth and your willingness to be open and real. Can you share them? I don't need your perfection, just two things: your honesty and your ability to trust. Are you ready? What I need are two simple things: for you to be real and to trust me with your heart. Will you? Two things that can create lasting change: your truth and your willingness to trust. Will you deliver them? I ask for nothing more than two things: your heart, open, and your truth, spoken freely. Will you offer them? Two things make the difference: your honesty and your courage. Can you bring them to this moment? I only need two things from you: your truth, unfiltered, and your trust, unwavering. Can you offer them? Two things matter most: your authenticity and your openness to change. Will you share both? What if the secret to something real was just two things: your trust and your willingness to show up? I only need two things: your truth, pure and simple, and your heart, open and unafraid. Will you share them?